Welcome to section 7.4, page 1 on percent. This is our very last section for the semester. It's been a long journey, but we've gotten here. I'm sorry it had to end this way. I wish we would have been all able to be together and celebrate. But I know you all will make very good teachers, so keep working hard and pursuing your dream. Let's go ahead and finish this last section up. So it's on percent. So what does percent mean? Well, we're going to separate it into two words, per and cent. So to think about the meaning of that, cent, how many cents are there in a dollar? Well, there's 100. So another way to think of this is per 100. And then the word per actually means divide. So when we talk about percent, we mean that it's a number divided by 100. So P% means P over 100. So you're thinking you have P things out of the whole is divided into 100 parts, equal parts. So for example, 50% means 50 per 100 or 50 divided by 100, or the fraction 50 over 100 or 0.50. All right, so now what I'd like you to do is pause the video, do the activity what is percent, that'll solidify the meaning of percent, and then turn the video back on and we'll be looking at converting from percent to decimal. All right, so we're going to do the conversion from percent to decimal. And if we just have the understanding of what the meaning of percent is, then we can convert it to a decimal very easily. Because here we have 19%. So what does 19% mean? Well, by definition, it means 19 over 100. So let's go ahead and write that. Now, if we say this in words, then we'll be able to write it as a decimal. So, this is 19 hundredths. All right, so write the number 19, and then to make it hundredths, we put the decimal point right there, then 19 hundredths. Okay, so I'll put the 0 in front so we clearly see that decimal point. All right, so it started as a percent, got converted to a decimal. Let's try 46%. So same thing, it's 46 over 100, and if we say it, we would say 46 hundredths with a THS on the end. So we have, when we say that 46 hundredths, we know we're going to write 0.46. And that's our answer there. Okay, here, 8%. So we're going to start by writing 8 over 100. That's what percent means, divided by 100. We say that, we would say 8 hundredths. All right, so when we write it, can I write decimal point 8? If we write decimal point 8, that's going to be 8 tenths, so that's wrong. Okay, that would be 8 tenths. So we need to move it over one more place and put 0.08. Now we have 8 in the hundredths position. Okay, so that's the answer there. So when we look at each one of these problems, start off here, 19. The decimal point in the number 19 is to the right of the 9. So what did we do? Here, decimal point to the right of the 6, here to the right of the 8. So when we convert from percent to decimal, what happens to that decimal point? It moves 2 places to the left, 2 places to the left, 2 places to the left. So that's the rule that sometimes people memorize. It's much better to have the understanding that we did here. So, but to write it, to convert from a percent to a decimal, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. Do your classwork, and then come on back. Excuse me. Okay, so now we're on to converting from a decimal to a percent. So we're going the other direction. They give us a decimal. We want to write it as a percent. Well, as long as we can do what we did before, we're ready to go. If we read this, we would say 45 hundredths. That's the proper way to read it, which means 45 over 100. Well, that's the definition of percent. Anything over 100, it means that's the percent we have, so 45%. So we've done it. Same here, we'd say 22 hundredths, which means 22 over 100. And again, that's 22%. Anything divided by 100 is a percent. Lastly, here we have 3/100ths. So what's the denominator going to be? 100. So what percent is that going to be? 3%. All right. So now, looking at it this way, we take a decimal, and we move the decimal point over 2 places, right, to get the percent. So 2 places to the right. So to convert from a decimal to a percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay, so here's where the confusion comes in. These are the same rules, only one time you move it to the left, one time you move it to the right. So you need to have an understanding of what it means. And maybe the easiest thing to remember, if you can remember that 50%, that's equal to 0.50, or like half. If that's one that you feel comfortable with, then you can kind of know which way you move to go back and forth between the two. All right, it's time for classwork, so go ahead, pause the video again, do that classwork, and then come back. Okay, you're back from your classwork, and let's take a look at converting from percent to fraction. Okay, so here we are at percent. We're just trying to convert to a fraction. Well, we were doing that before, so that's not hard to do. The definition of percent says that it's 25 over 100. Okay, I got to thinking about something. We didn't say anything about the percent signs in either one of these rules. So to convert from a percent to a decimal, this is what you do with the decimal point, and this is the direction you move it, but we forgot to say and remove the percent sign. Okay, and here we have to add a percent sign, and add percent sign. Okay, so that comes and goes as you convert from one to the other. So we remove the percent sign and write 25 over 100. Now, if we read the directions, it wants it as a fraction, but it also wants it in simplest form. So we are not in simplest form here. So you want to think of what's in common there? Actually, 25 is, isn't it? 25 does go into 100. 25 divided by 25 is 1, not nothing. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So that's 25% is the same as 1/4. Okay, let's go ahead and try this problem. So here we're going to convert to percent, which means write it over 100. 137.5 over 100. Okay, now this is not simplest form. We don't want a decimal in the numerator of a fraction. So let's go ahead and fix that. How would I get rid of that decimal point? I'd like to move it over 1 place to the right. Well, that means I want to make it bigger. So let's multiply times 10 here. 1 0 will move it 1 place. But if I do that to the numerator, I've got to do it to the denominator. So then what do I get? I get 1375 in the numerator, which is what we wanted, over 1,000 in the denominator. Okay, so now we've got to figure out whether or not this is simplified. So I can tell that there's at least a 5 in common here. So let's go ahead and figure out. If I divide by 5 and divide by 5, what do we get? Well, the denominator's pretty easy. That's just 200. What's the numerator going to be? Well, let's go off to the side here and figure out. So 3, no, not 3. That would be 15. That's too big. 2 is a 10. And then 37 would be 7, I mean. What's wrong with my multiplication today? 35. And then subtract 25, that's a 5. So 275 is what we got there. Okay, so let's keep going here. All right, so we still have a 5 in common. So let's do this, divided by 5, divided by 5. Okay, so in there we're going to have, I believe it's 55, but let's go off to the side and figure it out again. So we're going to say 5 into 275. Is 5, 25, and then 25 again is 5. Okay, so it's 55 is in the numerator. In the denominator, 5 goes into 20 4 times, and then 4 times and then 0, right? There's nothing left over. So just to check that, 5 times 40 is 200. Okay, we still have another 5. A lot of 5s in here. Okay, finally we get 11 over 8, and now I think we're finally done. There's nothing in common with 11 over 8. That's the way we're going to write it. I'm not sure if the book leaves it that way or if they want it as a mixed number, but if they do, 8 goes into 11 one time with 3 left over. What I'm doing there is like this. Okay, so that would be either one of those answers. Okay, that's it for the page 1. Let's go on to page 2.